Come on in, weary traveler, hang your cloak on a peg, grab a stool, and come gather round the fire. There are stories to be told, and you are among friends.
And good evening, this is Bob W6CJX, and I'll be your net control operator for tonight's Papa Great Outdoor Net. This net meets every Sunday evening at 8 p.m. Pacific. This is a directed net, so please go through net control at all times, and your cooperation is always greatly appreciated. Stations with emergency or priority traffic can come into the net at any time with a double break, and net control will respond appropriately. The Papa system is an open membership-supported system in the Southern California area with coverage from the Mexican border to Paso Robles and from the Channel Islands to Las Vegas, Nevada. If you're a visitor to the Papa system tonight, I invite you to go to papasys.com, that's PAPASYS.com, and register as a guest. With your guest registration, you'll have 45 days of free access to the Papa system. At the end of your one-time 45-day guest access period, we'd love for you to become a subscribed member, continue to use the Papa system on a daily basis, and be part of the Papa system family. However, all amateurs are welcome to participate in the daily, weekly, and monthly Papa system nets regardless of their membership status. Again, this is the Papa system Great Outdoor Net. Well, good Sunday evening to everybody. This is Bob W6CJX. Hope everyone is having a safe and restful Memorial Day weekend. It's a good time to reflect of our loved ones and friends, family that gave the ultimate sacrifice or paid the ultimate sacrifice with their life, keeping us free and have this wonderful, great country of the USA. So hopefully everyone agrees with that sentiment that we should say that. And getting together with family and everything should be good. So hopefully everyone's doing that. And that's that we like to do too. So we're going to get together. Let's see. We got so let's get to some announcements, and we'll get started with this very special edition of the Great Outdoor Net Memorial Day weekend. Gotta do Steve's Cabin. Yay! Okay. And all of the new people out there are going to really love that. Let's go to the announcements. Stand by.
Here is the Papa System weekly calendar for the latest news and upcoming events. The USS Midway Museum radio team, KI6LOV, will be on the air on Saturday, June 6th from 0900 to 1600 Pacific Time. They will be celebrating Museum Ships Weekend. Please check the Papa website for all of the modes and operating frequencies. The Papa Inland Empire Breakfast. Papa will be meeting at 9 o'clock on Saturday, June 13th at the Mill Creek Cattle Company. The Papa Valley Breakfast. Papa will also be meeting on Saturday, June 13th, 7:30 a.m. at Lulu's Restaurant in Van Nuys. We will be offering ham license testing at both locations for technician, general and amateur extra class licenses. Please RSVP for breakfast attendance and for ham license testing. As always, the Papa Quick Start program runs in conjunction with all our test sessions and is a benefit for newly licensed technician class ham radio operators. Please see the Papa website for more information. You are encouraged to check in on the Papa system Wednesday night, New Hams Net with Steve KI6LOV at 7 p.m. and let him know if you are part of the Quick Start program. Papa Picnic 2026. Join us on Sunday, June 14th at 10 a.m. for the 2026 Papa Picnic. We will be at the Falcon Flats Group area, Irvine Regional Park, the same location as last year. Please purchase your meal ticket today, so we can give the caterers an accurate head count. We will have a choice of hamburgers, veggie burgers or hot dogs, along with macaroni and potato salad. To drink, we will have Coke, Diet Coke, Sprite, lemonade and bottled water. Each meal ticket is $23. You can purchase your meal via PayPal, Apple Pay, Venmo or your credit card on the Papa website. This year, we will be supporting Operation Happy Feet. So please donate some new or slightly used shoes and socks. Please mark each donation item with the size on a strip of masking or painter's tape wrapped around the pair of shoes or socks for easier distribution to the people in need. Raffle prizes? We've got 'em. Raffle prize tickets can only be purchased at the Papa Picnic event. A list of the current raffle prizes can be found on the Papa website and on the Papa Facebook page. We look forward to seeing all of you there this year. All this information and a whole lot more can be found on the Papa website at papasys.com.
All right. Like I said, we got a lot of stuff going on for June. That's our new month coming up. And so make sure you get your shoes together. Get them all taped up there. Don't wear them after you tape them. Just, make sure we got to put a disclaimer in there just in case. And then we've got actually the NI6IW museum ship USS Midway is going to be doing something a little earlier. Caught us all by surprise. So that'll be on the 6th of June, and they will be celebrating Museum Ships Week. That's not easy to say. Anyway, this is Bob W6CJX for the Papa System, Great Outdoor Net. Let's see if Brian Whiskey Tango 6 Tango is with us tonight. Maybe give us a little bit of an update from today's internationally known, world famous Papa Antenna Show and Tell.
Thanks, Bob. This is Brian, Whiskey Tango 6 Tango in Glendale, and it was a pleasure to be at the Sunday morning Antenna Show and Tell. Had a dozen people show up to Burbank and McCambridge Park, and we chatted, put up gear, made contacts. One of the contacts was with Kevin K4HD, who was working POTA, and a bunch of us got on Logan's rig and talked to him. But we had some 3 big HF antennas and a bunch of UHF and handhelds and a quad UHF beam that was handmade from James, W6NYU. Always a good time. Thanks for asking for a report, and see you soon. Whiskey Tango 6 Tango, back to net.
Well, thank you, Brian, for being there and doing. I guess you kind of picked it up from RJ and ran with it, and sounded like it was quite a success, actually. So nothing wrong with that at all. Good job. Let's see if there's any other announcements before we get started. Any announcements at this time only? All right, I'll take that as a no. And note to self: stop eating chocolate-covered espresso beans at least 1 hour before you start the net. Yeah, it's just got to have some time to come down from those Trader Joe's coffee beans. Boy, they're pretty good, as you can tell. I'm flying around the studio tonight. Okay, let's see. We have a very special night tonight because we normally would go to Steve and get our trail report, but since Memorial Day weekend is kind of a special time for Steve with his cabin, and we have, I think this is number 4, at least somewhat, I think so. And we did all the other Steve cabins, and lots of fun, a lot of good information. He's still got more stories up his sleeve. I mean, 50 years? Yeah, I would say so. So I'd like to welcome Steve KI6LOV. We all know and love him from the New Hams Net on Wednesday night, and also here on the Great Outdoor Net. So Steve KI6LOV, welcome.
All right, good evening, Bob, and everyone out here on the Great Outdoor Net. This is Steve KI6LOV, and it's a pleasure and an honor to be here tonight, Bob, and I'll do my best to entertain and answer questions and see what we can come up with for tonight. I'll give it back to you, and then I'd like to do a little history lesson so people will know exactly how I wound up having a cabin in the wilderness in the Angeles forest. I think that would be a good way to start tonight. So, Bob, I'll give it back to you, and then I'll take a deep breath, and I'll get ready to go.
Well, I hope you got your seatbelt on and you're strapped in, and you'll be able to commandeer the microphone tonight. Yeah, that sounds great, Steve. And yeah, welcome to episode number 4. But we're talking 3 years maybe total. We did the Steve's Cabin, Return to Steve's Cabin, and then we did Fireside Chat with Steve's Cabin. And Steve, he was there somewhere. And then now we don't know what we're going to title this, but it's Memorial Day Steve's Cabin, I suppose. All right, Steve, I'm going to send it back to you. For the new people out there, there's a few, maybe over half the people that do check in may not have been around when we did some of these nets before, although they are archived on the Papa YouTube page. But let's see if Steve can give us a little history and get us up to date from then till now. Go ahead, Steve. KI6LOV, W6EJX, net control.
All right, thank you, Bob, and good evening to everyone. And tonight I am at home in Santa Monica, California, and coming to you on Papa 4. And so back in 1912, long before my time, a gentleman named Will Thrall started a famous Southern California hiking club called the San Antonio Hiking Club. And at the time, it rivaled the already famous Sierra Club, of course, John Muir's famous hiking club that remains to the present. And in 1957, the San Antonio Hiking Club cabin in Bear Canyon burned down. And so they went looking for a new cabin. And in 1961, they purchased cabin 138 in Winter Creek, the Winter Creek section of Big Santa Anita Canyon. And that currently is my cabin. And the way this happened was in the early 70s, after high school, I started taking some classes at Santa Monica College, and I took some life science classes, and I had a teacher for field zoology named Harvey Kirk, and it turned out he had a cabin in the woods. His father, Charlie, had been one of the original members of the San Antonio Hiking Club. So all the other students that I knew from my classes and going out on field trips, one December, they were telling me, we're all going to go out to Harvey's cabin for New Year's Eve. And Steve, you love the out of doors, you love to hike, you're not going to believe this cabin. You have to come with us. So in 1974, New Year's Eve, I took my first trip out to cabin 138. Needless to say, I fell in love with it, and through a whole series of events that may be a little too long even for this net, eventually, after decades, I became the owner of the cabin. And there's a lot in there as well. But that first New Year's Eve at the cabin was really something, as you can imagine, with all my college friends and girlfriends and stuff. So pretty special. And I've got one more item to throw in, Bob. I'd just like to kind of mention that we're not talking about a cabin that's way up in the outskirts of somewhere in Idaho or Washington State or something. This is right above Arcadia at the end of Santa Anita Avenue is where the trailhead is. And if you've gone to the Papa website and looked at the Steve's Cabin presentation, you'll see that when I tell you it is in the middle of the wilderness, it really is. And yet just like 5 miles over the mountain to the south is the entire San Gabriel Valley in the sprawling L.A. basin. So it's a really special place, and it's not a situation like that is not for everyone, but I am in my 51st year of taking care of that cabin and enjoying the wilderness. So, Bob, there we go, the brief history of Cabin 138, Steve's Cabin. Back to you, KI6LOV.
Very good, Steve. Yeah, that's definitely, and I know history for me, knowing you for 13 years, I guess now, since 2013. When I first heard you talk about the cabin back then, I was quite the avid hiker, and literally every weekend I'd go out for at least from like 6 in the morning till noon, or and then come back home and rest. But you used to have some pretty good hikes, and just thought, wow, would this be the coolest thing ever to have a cabin that you have to hike to? I mean, you can drive to a lot of cabins, up in Idlewild, Big Bear, Arrowhead, and they're beautiful, but you drive to them and have to actually. So this is like backpacking at its finest, being that you can end up at a cabin, right? Thanks, Steve. Well, now I guess Steve's got some news stories we'd like to hear too, but I think what I might do is go take a few check-ins. Let's take one little round. If you have any questions or a comment for Steve, we could do that now. Steve could throw in a story after that, which might bring up more questions and comments. So let's see who's out there tonight. We'll just take as many as we can get. And like I said, you can either just do a normal check-in if you want, or if you have a question for Steve, or just a comment or something to that effect. And if it's something in particular that might take a couple transmissions back and forth, you're welcome to go direct with Steve, and then Steve can put on his neck controller hat and then just take care of it and then hand it back to me when he's through. When he's through with it, he'll just give it back to me.
Kilo November 6 Alpha Quebec Trail.
KO6 MRX, Jamie.
K6 Officer.
Kilo Foxtrot 4, Papa.
Kilo
Quebec
Mike
Hotel,
6, Zulu Foxtrot Echo, Smart, checking in. Topanga Local.
Okay, there was a little collusion there at the beginning. So I got Dale, AQQ. I've got Jamie, MRX. I got Tom, COZ. And I, excuse me, and I got Ron, K4PQH. What did I got? Jamie twice. Oh, I wrote Jamie down here. I wasn't supposed to. And I got a Zulu Foxtrot Echo. So if I didn't just call your call sign or your name, and you tried checking in, just then come back.
KO6 DGX Rick on Papa 6.
Got you, Rick. Okay, let's go to the top and say hello to Dale. I know Dale's been here a while too, and he's heard a few stories from. Maybe if you don't have a question or a comment, you could always say what your favorite maybe story. I have a few that I really just absolutely can't get enough of, especially the nuns and the boots on the trail. Anyway, I won't give too much away. Dale, N6AQQ, welcome.
Good evening, Steve and Bob and Annette. Dale and
Thanks, Tom.
6AQQ. My question would be, is there any other, Steve, have you heard of anybody else anywhere in the country that's got the same situation that you've got? They've got a cabin in the woods. It seems like a very unusual situation. I'm wondering if there's cabins in the forest elsewhere if you know of. Anyway, N6AQQ.
All right. Thank you, Dale, for the question. And yes, indeed, I need to explain a little further. My cabin is one of 65 cabins that are in Big Santa Anita Canyon, out in near Arcadia, as I mentioned, in the Angeles Forest. And there are other cabin tracks, not only in the Angeles Forest, but in San Bernardino and also all around the country. And this was a program that was started in, I think, 1914, and the Forest Service at the time was trying to encourage people to get out in the wilderness and get away from modern life, such as it was at the time. And that's the type of cabin mine is. It is on what's known as a special use permit, which is kind of like a lease from the government. I don't own the land, but I own all the structures, and I am responsible to keep them in good shape because they are of historic value. So, Dale, I'll give it back to you. Do you have any other comments?
Yeah, so you say there's a place like that in San Bernardino. I'm curious. I never heard of it. It's interesting. Anyway, yeah, it's great that you've got that cabin. Anyway, N6AQ2.
Additional info?
All right, I'll take over.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead, Bob.
No, I didn't know whether, so we had additional info. So let's go with the additional info, call sign and name, and then I guess I'll just take it back after that. So give it back to me. Go ahead, additional info.
Okay, very good, Bob. Hey, this is Steve, WA6 Foxtrot Golf Whiskey. There is a similar arrangement, although I don't know how close, but from what I'm told, there's a small town that's right between Sequoia and Kings Canyon, and for the life of me, I can't think of the name of the town, but they've also got a similar situation, and it turned out to be somebody that joined our backpacking group when I was still heavy into that earlier on. But anyway, just be aware, and then that'll guide you there. WA6FGW. Go ahead, Bob.
Well, thank you for that, Steve. Where you been? Maybe you've been missing in the log here. But thank you for jumping in with that. I put you on the list anyway if you have something else. But that's perfect. Gives us a little idea that there's other places out there. And I imagine other states too. You know, you get into the Appalachians and stuff, there's probably people that have a cabin somewhere that they maybe own the land, I guess, and they hike out to it. So it's kind of the ultimate thing for a hiker, I would think, is to have a cabin that you can hike to, and like I said, have a cabin. You know, being that it's doesn't have power, water, well, water in the stream, but all natural, all natural. All right, let's say thank you, Steve, and let's say hello to Rick. I thought he was the second one after Dale there. KO6DGX, what you got for us, Rick? And welcome to the net.
Hey, thank you, Bob. And I think I switched over to All-Star, so I hope I'm getting in okay. And then I wanted to have a comment for Steve there. So, hey, Steve, but before I start, thanks, Bob, man. You're so creative. You run a great net, and always looking forward to it. And Steve, man, got to tell you, I am so grateful that you got to have that experience. And I think the happiest day in that cabin's life was the day you became the steward and going to look after her and stuff. So I'm pretty sure you had to make repairs after some bear intrusions or animals or whatever it is. I mean, I know a historic building must be, a handful to take care of. So one quick question, though, I'm curious about. There's no roads up that. Oh, by the way, I want to make a comment to the guy talking about other places that do the same thing. Throughout the national forest system, maybe not internationally, but throughout the country, they have people who own properties, structures, but they don't own the land. So you're inside the national forest, so golden. You might have in North Santa Barbara County, people have 3-bedroom, beautiful homes. But if the one thing about it is that they have different policies that might apply. So any of these people who are close to the river, if the river floods and it erodes your property, you can't repair it. You have to leave the river alone. And if it next year it comes through and it floods and it takes out your property, you can't rebuild it. It's just gone. So that's kind of an interesting situation. But with Steve up there in that mountain, I don't think he's going to have a gnarly flood like that. But I was just wondering, Steve, this is my question. It's so historic, no roads going up there. Were those structures in that area developed by using pack horses and mules and stuff? How the heck did they get all the construction material and 2x4s and 4x4s and all that stuff up there? KO6DGX, over to Steve.
Yes, every special use permit is a little bit different. There is, of course, a lot of boilerplate, but each one is specific to the site itself. And my cabin is so close to the Winter Creek stream that it is considered to be in the riparian zone. So if it is destroyed, it cannot be repaired, and that's a whole thing on its own. Yes, all the cabins were built with materials brought either by people themselves or on mule trains. And the Santa Anita cabin tract, where my cabin is the only walk-in only tract in the Angeles National Forest. There are other cabin tracks, Big Tahunga Canyon, etc., but those are all drive-in, so it's a whole different scene. And believe me, I am blessed that there is no road to my cabin. I think anything else there, Rick, and I'll give it back to you.
I'm going to digress and throw it back to the net, and you guys all have fun. Love listening to y'all and all your stories, so let's go with that. And I'll catch you off the net for some further questions. KO6 DJ.
All right, Rick, thank you so much for the question, because that's a good one, and we've all probably wondered that at some point, is how did all that stuff get there? Did they have helicopters back then and bring up a load of lumber? Yeah, even when they do repairs, Rick, and Steve had some repairs done not too long ago, and the gentleman had to bring up a bunch of concrete and, bags of stuff. I don't know. Sounds like a lot of work to me, but it did some stonework for him. He might even touch on that a little bit. So maintenance, yes, that's the number one thing I think that Steve does when he gets there is at least an hour or so of maintenance or more, depending on what it is. And then he gets to relax and enjoy his cabin. I've heard that one a few times, so I know it to be true. Let's say hello to Jamie. I don't know if it's KO6MRX, but I know it's MRX and it's Jamie, so let's go with that and hand the microphone over to you.
Thank you, Bob. You're correct. It's KO6MRX. Thanks for running the net tonight, and thanks to Steve for coming on. I have a practical question. You need a certain amount of purified water, and water's heavy by the gallon, let alone if you have to bring in 5 gallons, Steve. So I'm curious. I know you have to bring it in on the trail, but is there some easier way to bring it in? Do you bring it in on a sled, or that you pull, or how do you get your purified water in there? KO6MRX. Thank you.
All right, Jamie. Very good question. Well, I actually have a stream near my cabin, just not far at all. And it runs pretty much all year long. Only in the worst drought years has it ever gotten very low. But I have a cistern made by Katadyn. And what it is, it's a 2-part mechanism with ceramic filters in it. And I go to the stream, I pick up a bucket of water and pour it in the top, and it filters through into the bottom. And that's my drinking water. And then, of course, when I'm hiking in, I bring at least a little more water than I need to have for my hike, just to be sure. But that's the thing about the water. But way back in those days, in the 70s and into the early 80s, we all drank the water straight out of the stream. And, people didn't get sick back then, but I've learned some things down the line, so no, I filter it. I'll give it back to you, Jamie, if you have any kind of follow-up.
No, I don't. Thanks very much, Steve. I was just curious as all get out about that, so thanks for explaining it. A cistern makes a lot of sense. And back to Bob, KO6MRX. Thank you.
I think you guys have done this before. Wow, so orderly and so perfect. Well, yeah, the Katadyn, I know I have trouble saying it too, but they do a great job. I still have my maybe it was an MRS filter, Mountain Research, something like that. But it worked pretty well too with the ceramic filter. So it's the same principle, and so that works out great, Steve, to have that. I'm going to ask Steve a quick question. How far did you have to go when there was a drought? I think we talked about that a little bit, but just briefly, real quick, let's say it's not right by was it still going by your door? I mean, by your cabin, or did you have to go a little further out?
Well, during the worst drought years, I think I had to go, it's not even a quarter mile really upstream, where the canyon is all bedrock. Down a little farther, in fact, out in front of my cabin, it's mostly sand and gravel, so, the water would be underground. But, yeah, just take about 10 or 15 minutes to get a bucket of water. So, yeah, that's the simple life, isn't it? What is it? The song says, "The simple life ain't so simple." KI6LOV. Back to you, Bob.
Touche. That is a good song. Good lyrics too. I grew up with Strawberry Creek up in Idlewild, and it was, I wouldn't say it was seasonal, it definitely was year round, but would go from a major flow down to a trickle in the summer months and things, but we didn't really have a drought back then like we do now. Well, thanks for that. That sounds good. Now we know how far you got to go if you do, but hopefully that stream's going to keep going for many more years. Let's say hello to Tom, K6COZ. What's going on, my friend? How are you? And welcome to the Great Outdoors.
Hey, thanks, Bob, so much. W6EJX, KI6LOV. Yep, been a little bit. I've been trying to check in. Sometimes I don't quite make it, or I just, gets a little bit late. But, Bob, thanks for doing the net. And a question for Steve, KI6LOV. Do you have a wood cabin, or is it like stone? What kind of flooring do you have? Do you have a wood stove in there? And just wondering what kind of stuff you have to keep warm there. You got a little wood stove or a little fireplace. And good to hear you there, Steve. Back to you. Back. Thank you.
All right, Tom. I'll just begin by saying that if you go to the website and Papa System and search for Steve's Cabin, that'll answer some of your questions. But the foundation about halfway up is all stone, and then it's wooden above that, and has a really nice big stone fireplace. And I don't have a wood stove, but the floor is old flooring from back in the day, which is, I believe, Doug fir. And and you can see for yourself on the website. And it's she's showing her age, but she's still a beauty, I must say. All right, Bob, I'll give it back to you. KI6LOV.
Yeah, I love the river stone. I'd love to have a fireplace built out of that. Even if it's the fake stuff, I wouldn't care. Just the little facade half pieces. That would be fun. We have a brick fireplace, so we're good with that, I guess. But yeah, Tom, it's the pictures that I've seen. I have not been there. I am shame on slapping myself because I should have been there a long time ago. But from the pictures, I feel like I'm there. It's a wonderful cabin for sure. So everybody check that out if you want to get a visualization of what it really looks like. Thanks, Tom. Let's keep on going down the road. Speaking of going down the road, KF4PQH, he's been on a couple little road trips lately, but what you got for us tonight, Ron, over in Virginia? Welcome.
Good evening, Bob and Annette. This is KF4PQH in Locust Grove, Virginia. Just a reminder to take a little time this weekend to remember the reason for the weekend and those who made the sacrifice for the freedom that we've got, because that freedom wasn't free. So if you get a chance tomorrow to go somewhere besides having a celebration and a little bit of cookout to maybe remember those folks at some ceremony, take a chance to do that. Steve, I love hearing about your cabin. I want to say when I found the Papa System when I was out on the road, one of the first times I logged in, you gave a presentation on your cabin out there, and it just amazed me. And I went back doing a bunch of research, and I was just doing a little bit while we were talking now. Couldn't find the actual cabin, but I know I found the area out there, and they talk about, I think it's Chantry, and also talk about the pack mules and stuff to get gear in there. Somebody was talking about that. Apparently it's the last pack mule team that you can rent or you can get to use. It's left in California, but always exciting to hear about things out there, and it's just an amazing place. Sorry I never got the opportunity to get out there, but I love looking at the video that's on Papa System. And Steve, I wish you many, many more happy years out there. Man, you still got what it takes to get out there and take that hike in and do it, and it seems to be your piece of heaven and your place to get away from. It's amazing to hear you've been out there and had that cabin to be able to use that gift for so many years. So more blessings on you on that cabin, and folks, if you get a chance to do something nice for somebody, take a chance and do it. And 7-3, and just love hearing about the cabin. This is KF4PQH, back to net control.
All right, thank you so much, Ron. And Thanks for the kind words, and indeed. In fact, I was just there yesterday. I did not stay overnight. I did an in and out, stayed there for a couple hours, did a little bit of work, and took a nap. But I'll tell you, at my age, in and out in one day is challenging but doable. I'll put it that way. So, and this brings up, since it is Memorial Day weekend, Bob, I'm going to go ahead and keep it for a short story to kind of get things rolling here. I think there is one more check-in on your list, but so I won't be long. So back in those decades of the 70s into the 80s and early 90s, when myself and all my friends that I had from college and friends of friends, it was like a commune or a collective where anyone who was a member of the hiking club could come anytime and use it. You would just require a phone call to someone to let them know you were going, but you could not reserve the cabin for yourself. You had to accept that other people might show up, and that was part of the game. So when I first started going there, I was told about a tradition that preceded me, and that was the Memorial Day. It was known as the annual. And that weekend, no one had to call, no one had to do anything except show up and bring something for the collective pot of stew that we would make in a cauldron over the fireplace, and everyone would bring their meat and carrots and potatoes and whatever they thought was a good thing to put in the cabin stew. And that was a tradition that went on for quite some time, and as you can imagine, it's a heck of a party. KI6LOV, back to you, Bob.
Yes, indeed. I've kind of heard a little bit more of the R-rated part of it. Not really. It wasn't, well, he probably has been holding some stuff back from me, but there's, can you imagine, even the New Year's that he went to the first time to a cabin, and then I think he said they hiked up at in the nighttime, like just go over the ridge to look down on the valley floor or something like that. But that must have been an interesting time for sure. And I bet they didn't even have flashlights. I don't know. We'll see. Let's turn Steve loose with a little bit of, there's some, looking at some great stories here that I really want to hear. Yeah, I think that's the whole premise of having the Memorial Day weekend annual cabin net. It kind of just fell into that little track. And of course, I didn't realize there was the annual. I guess we could just call it the annual. Wouldn't that be proper? I might just do that for you, Steve. Let's do that. I want to get some stories from Steve. So, Steve, if you're ready, still got plenty of time, and I want to take all your time away, but definitely get some stories in for us. And you can break when you want and give it back to me when you're through. W6EJX Net Control, over to Steve KI6LOV.
Okay. I'm going to keep it cabin story and not venture out onto the trail. So, yes, there was the 1974 New Year's Eve, which was epic, and that's where the journey began. But along the way, there were so many weekends where I was there with friends and friends of friends, and keep in mind we're all in our either late teens and early 20s, and there were no cell phones, there was no phone, there were no radios. It was just assumed when you go out to the wilderness that you're on your own and you take care of things, right? So anyway, as I say, friends of friends would come, and one weekend, and this story is called Witch at the Cabin. So I had a number of friends who lived down in Venice, and back in the 70s, this one young lady was brought by a friend of hers, and she hiked all the way into the cabin, like dressed all in black, before it was hip to be a goth type person. So basically she was dressed like Wednesday Addams, and carried with her a cat carrier with a black cat in it all the way to the cabin. And so we're hanging out and having our party in the evening at the cabin. And keep in mind, this is all by firelight and lamps and things. So this young lady set herself up in the corner with her cat sitting on her lap, just stroking the cat. And it was, I mean, even for me, it was a little weird. So I remember, I was kind of under the influence, if you will. And I remember going over to her in the crowd of people and just saying, I know what this is all about, right? And she didn't speak much. She was very pleasant, but it was kind of strange, I have to tell you. So anyway, nothing ever came of it, but it was just one of those interesting people who came by to visit at the cabin back in the day. KI6LOV. Back to you, Bob.
Well, yeah, that would have freaked the hell out of me. For sure. Being up there, like you just said, there's no cell phones, no electricity. We got firelight and a couple lanterns going, and there's a lady dressed in black stroking a black cat, petting a black. Wow. Okay. You even actually got, yeah, I guess you'd have to be under the influence to go over and say hello. That one's priceless. Yeah, that's a good one. Well, what about you? I got the same list I do. If you want to give us another one, and let's knock a couple of them out. They're so good, and especially some of the newer ones. Whichever one you want to do.
All right, I'll do a couple here, but I'll keep this one short. And so this is back in the same time period when we were all really young and strong and all. And it may have been that first first New Year's Eve, but perhaps one subsequent, I'm not certain, and where we're partying, and it's not too late yet, but someone realized we were going to run out of champagne. We didn't have enough champagne and other potables. So a couple guys decided they were going to hike out, and they just took off, and they hiked all the way down to the parking lot really fast, I might add. This is in, when people in their 20s could trail run and all. And they went down back into town, and they went to a liquor store and came back, and they were only gone a couple hours, seemed like. And they had a pack full of liquid refreshments for us all. So that one we'll call the booze run. And then let's see. Oh, I know. I'll come to another one that's a little more recent, but still has more to do with the cabin than being out on the trail. Okay, back in those days, there were a couple of guys I knew who were scout leaders, and so they would bring a Boy Scout troop up once in a while, and occasionally they did things that weren't too smart. And this one time, somebody threw a rope over a branch that was hanging above the chimney side of the cabin down by the stream, and they decided it would be a cool thing for the kids to swing off of the cabin hanging on this rope. Thankfully, no one was injured. However, I was left with a rope dangling from the branch because they hadn't thought about how they were going to retrieve it. So there's about a 3/8-inch cheap polypropylene rope hanging from this branch, and over the years, every year when the Forest Service came to inspect, one of the things on my checklist was remove rope from branch above cabin. And there was no way, because I couldn't climb up there. I mean, even, 20 years ago, I wasn't going to try to climb up there and cut it off. And I tried everything. And then one day, I mentioned to a cabin owner friend of mine named Mike, and he was a real old salty guy, a former fire captain in Arcadia, and he had a real adventurous twist to him. So I was talking to Mike about the rope dangling from the branch, and I told him, I said, okay, I have a challenge here, and there were some other guys around too, and I said, okay, if you can get the rope off the branch, it's a $100 bill right in your hand. And Mike says, I can do it. And he says, I'll go up there next week, and then I'll give you a call, let you know what happens. So I told him, okay, and we shook hands. And then, I don't know, it was a few days later, maybe Wednesday or Thursday, I get a call from Mike, and he says, hey, Steve, okay, the good news is the rope's gone from the branch. And he says, the bad news is there's a shotgun in your closet, and I couldn't take it with me because I was afraid someone heard all the rounds I fired off, and they would see me with the gun. So I'll come up and get it another time. And I just thought, holy crap. So he did like a Clint Eastwood and shot the rope off of the branch with a shotgun. And when I got up to the cabin next to look around, I opened the closet. Yep, there was the shotgun. And when I started walking around, I found the plastic wads from all these shots. I can't imagine how many rounds it took him. And the branch was all splattered with birdshot and stuff. But that was okay because the rope was gone. Back to you, Bob.
Well, you can't make this stuff up. That's for sure. That's a really good story. I love that one. I don't even know if I've heard that one. I've heard most of them, or no, I haven't heard most of them. Heard some of them. Yeah, we've all heard some of them. And we want to thank Matt, K3MAT, for doing the video and the pictures that are at Steve's cabin on the Papa website. If you go there, you just type in Steve, I think it pops up, Beyond RF, something like that, or Steve's cabin. It'll come right up if you look it up. But thank you to Matt for doing the great job on the video and everything, and putting this little presentation together, because kind of just like the Papa Ham Camp Island trip, if someone says, well, what do you guys do out there? What's out there? What's going on? And I just tell them to go to, it's on the Papa website too, under YouTube, and you can see what we do out there on the annual trip to the island. Hopefully the island will be there. I think they're finally getting Santa Rosa under control. W6CJX for the Papa System, Great Outdoor Net, here on Sunday evenings at 8 p.m. Pacific. And let's see. Do we want to take another couple check-ins, Steve? Let's do that real quick, and we'll see if we can get a couple more. Anyone out there like to check in? Please come down.
Kilo Delta 6, Lima Bravo, Logan on All-Star.
Kilo Oscar 6 Delta Golf X-ray recheck for Steve.
Kilo 6 Papa Foxtrot November, John.
Camp 6 HWH, Tony. KO 6 COJ, Johnny.
Kilo 6 Charlie Echo Golf, in and out. Just love to hear the stories.
All right, there we go. Sometimes I hit the button right on top of the button, and other times I miss it by that much. And I don't have that sound bite ready, but that's okay. We'll continue. Yeah, let's take these, and we will see if they have any comments or questions for Steve. All right, let's see. Logan, KD6LOV. Welcome, Logan.
Good evening, Bob and Steve and everybody out there. This is Logan, KD6LOV, coming in on All-Star. And there are so many things that I'd like to comment on. A chance to listen, but I do want to make one comment, I guess. Yeah, the story about the rope was pretty classic. Sounds like you had some of the same friends I had, or similar. But anyway, great stories. Really appreciate you're telling them, Steve, and you giving him the platform, Bob. KD6LLB.
Well, thank you, Logan. We're always thinking of you when we come up with some of these fun ideas and things to do. And I know you that it would be something right up your alley, too. It's just like, man, amazing to be able to do something like that. Well, thank you, Logan. If you have anything else, you can come back on in. We got Rick, but let me get a couple of the others first, and we'll come back to Rick. Let's see. We've got K6PFN, John.
K6PFN. I don't know what went wrong, but thank you for calling up, Bob. Just wanted to say hi, and what great stories, Steve. Thank you so much. This is really neat. What a cool thing. And I've heard this before, but I think more stories tonight. So it's been awesome. So sending it back to Bob. This is K6PFN.
Well, Steve will be coming out with a new album. Well, we should do a book. You really should do a book, Steve. Really should do a book. If you can put all this stuff on paper somewhere, wow, it would be cool. You never know. We got all these memories down. Thank you, John. I know pretty much everybody, I think, on the net tonight, whether you're, checking in or not, and just out there listening is envious of the cabin. I mean, if we're on outdoor net, and like I said, someone with a cabin, we will go with that. Thank you, John. Appreciate you too. And let's say hello to Tony, KM6HWH, I think it is. Go ahead, Tony.
Yeah, Tony and Logan and Miguel, first time on the Papa system on a net, so just checking in.
Well, thank you, Tony. Yeah, you're always welcome. We're here here every Sunday night, and of course we have nets all through the week, every night of the week, and Sunday night we like to say we start our week here, since sometimes Sundays do start your week, but that way Monday doesn't seem so bad. Well, thanks for coming by and saying hello, and let's say hello to Johnny, a good friend of mine, K06COJ. Welcome, Johnny. What's happening?
Oh, good evening, Bob and the group. K06COJ coming in on Papa 1. Yeah, I just had a quick question for Steve, if he's still taking them. I'm curious if he ever arrived at his cabin and found that he had some unexpected roommates or uninvited guests of the furry, feather, or reptilian type. K06COJ, back to net control.
All right, I'll go ahead and take it. All right, Johnny. Well, as you might imagine, having a cabin out in the wilderness, I'm just a visitor. I don't live there. All the animals live there. And for all the time I'm not there, they are. And sometimes they're all very curious by nature, and I get, unfortunately, occasionally rodents, which has been a constant problem over the years. I'll get it under control, and then it'll be fine for a while, and then all it takes is one very bold pack rat. All right, as you can imagine, rodent control is an issue with any mountain cabin. And there have been times when I've had bear break-ins, and that's a real problem. So the issue with the bears is once they taste some kind of human food, they don't want to go back to their normal stuff. And if they find something in someone's cabin or even their home, like down in the town of Sierra Madre or Arcadia, or in the trash can, it makes them want to come back for more. And that's very bad for a wild animal to get into that habit. Yeah, I've never found anything like right in there that I needed to deal with besides a lizard or something. But yeah, that would be shocking to arrive and open the door and have a bear inside already. That's never happened, thankfully. All right, thanks for the question. Back to you, Bob. KI6LOV.
Yeah, that's great. Well, it's not great. I know Steve still has did some kind of a remasoning type of thing here recently, just to keep an extra hole. But you can imagine a cabin. Okay, like he said, she's showing her age. It's a few years old, but yeah, it's there and it's standing and it's still wonderful. But you can imagine there's probably a million ways that they can try to get in and find something. So, and when you're, a pack rat or an animal, what else do you have to do other than find food and sleep and go to the bathroom or something. So anyway, all right. Well, thank you, Johnny. And I think Jeff was an in and out. So I think we're out of stations. Let's see if Steve wants to tell us another story or two, or we'll kind of wrap it up after that. Go ahead, Steve.
I'll tell a story here that I'm not sure I've told before, and then Bob, after this, pick up DJX for his recheck, if you don't mind. So now I'm talking about back in the 90s sometime, and it was a summer afternoon, and I'm at the cabin, and just for reference, about a half a mile downstream from where my cabin is, there is a backpacking trail camp called Hoagie's Camp, and that was named after an old mule packer back in the day, Vint Hoagie. You can look that up. And so I'm at the cabin in the afternoon, and I hear voices, and it wasn't too unusual, although it's kind of rare to have visitors drop by my cabin. And I realized they were not speaking English. So I walk out the front door, and I look up the trail up to my outhouse, and there's a group of Japanese men, and I could just tell, and they are dressed in street clothes like they were going to a sushi bar. I kid you not. And now that's 3 miles from the parking lot, and I'm just thinking, wow, what is up with this? So they were talking. I asked them, do you have, can I help you with something? You have questions? And they talked amongst themselves, and then they sent one of them out down to talk to me, and he's the only one who spoke English. And he asked me if I had any vending machines. And I looked at him, and I looked back up at them, and I said, no, sir, this is the wilderness. There are no vending machines. And then he spoke to them in Japanese, like turned around and talked to them, and then they talked back to him, and then he asked me, what about Hoagie Camp? Hoagie Camp, they'd heard of Hoagie Camp. Were there vending machines there? And it was another case of people not doing their research, and I said no. And they were very disappointed. And I offered them some water from my cistern, and they refused. And I explained to them, back up to the trail, back the way you came. And they left, and I was left with an astonished attitude. I couldn't believe that people would come all the way out there and not be prepared. It was really something. That's a singular experience there, Bob. Back to you, KI6LOV.
I've seen my share of different people hiking that probably shouldn't be. Well, not that they shouldn't have been hiking, but be more prepared. And my all-time favorite was always people in flip-flops, which has got to really kill going back down the mountain. Going up isn't as bad, except your feet might slip out of the flip-flops. But yeah, those kind of things are definitely a definite thing. Let's go back to Rick.
Thank you, Bob, and to all the people listening on the net and participating. It's so cool. So, yeah, man, Steve, and this is cool, this little thing that Steve's doing with these stories, because it stimulates another thought, and you want to reply to. That's why I told him I'd catch him down the road. But so real quick, with those rodents that invade when you're not around and stuff. So this is what we do in North Santa Barbara County. We have barn cats, and so barn cats will live on your property. You could go out and give them food. They'll be all happy and eat their kibbles and stuff, but they live on their own. They don't need it. They go out and they hunt, and very important thing they do is they pee and mark their territory. And rodents, like when they smell that, they skedaddle, man. You eliminate a rodent population by bringing in a barn cat, and in 1 year you'll never see another rodent. And so that's one idea. But, when you got witches, brewing around and stuff with their black dresses and stuff, I'm kind of curious about that. But, she proved to you that you could carry a cat up there and then carry it home and be safe. So it's not like you're going to abandon a barn cat to be eaten by the coyotes or whoever who might hunt them out. But barn cats are very swift about eluding predators. So anyways, you could carry a barn cat up there, carry it out, or you could just leave one living there if you think it's safe, and they will eliminate your rodents. And then, New Year's Eve party, 1974. So you're over the hill, dude. We usually cruised Valley Boulevard in the San Gabriel Valley, but once a year we cruised Colorado Boulevard, and we're going down the route of the New Year's Eve parade and partying there all night. First time I ever slept on a floor, because I was just a little teenager, and my parents were first time they were to let me go there overnight by myself. So when you partied up there in '74 on that mountain, if we had found out you guys were up there, man, Marqueppe High School, Alhambra High School, San Gabriel High School, we would have invaded that place.
Well, thank you, Rick. Appreciate you. Let's get another story, or at least one more before we end. And really appreciate your time, Steve. And I know usually you come in and do your great report each week, which we look forward to. And so that's just giving us a little bit extra of your time and a little bit of all your information that we love. All right, I'll send it back to Steve. Kind of not even for a final. If there's a question or two, we can maybe get that too. Go ahead, Steve. KI6LOV W6TJX Net Control.
Foxtrot Golf Whiskey when you get a chance.
You know what, FGW, I'll go ahead and take your comment, Steve, and because WA6FGW is one of the few Papa members who's actually been to my cabin, and he knows of what of I speak. So anyway, KI6LOV, go ahead, Steve.
Okay, very good there, Steve. That's exactly what I was going to pass along, and all the stories and I can just picture it in my mind, even though it was, what was this, about 10, 12 years ago? I have no exact recollection of timing on that, but it was definitely a long time ago. But actually, I did have a question. One was, have you kept it, how would you say it? Some people don't like to mix, modern technology. I just wondered if you put any antennas up on a semi-permanent basis up at your place, or maybe you want to keep it hidden for CCNR purposes. And then the other one is, I was curious of what changes when you go up in the wintertime. I assume sometimes there's skiers and cross-country skiers and whatnot that they open up the place for whatever, but maybe that's not the case. But anyway, there you go. Otherwise, have a great one, guys. Thanks for doing the net there, Bob. Well, let me pass it to Steve. He's got the reins. WA6 Foxtrot Golf Whiskey.
All right, Steve, very good. No, there's not enough altitude for snowfall to stick, which is kind of the good news and the bad news, because when it's really cold and clammy in the winter, it would be nice if it were a winter wonderland. So there's none of that. And no, I don't have any antennas up permanently at all. Not allowed. And so I have a setup where I can just deploy my UHF, VHF antenna when I get to the cabin and hook up my radio, and I have my batteries, small batteries that I bring, and no HF, just strictly UHF, VHF. So there you go. All right, Bob, I'll give it back to you, and I could do another story, and then maybe you could take a few more check-ins, and it's up to you. It's your net, KI6LOV.
We've always wanted to do like a co-net control thing, and this is kind of like that tonight. It's, we could um, actually probably both talk at the same time since we're both duplexing and everything. But yeah, that's pretty cool. Well, no, I know Steve has been up there, and of course Neil and John that used to go up. So yeah, definitely been a few people that's made their way up there. Yeah, go ahead with the one of the grand finale stories maybe, and then if there's any other questions or comments, we can follow up with that at the end. So we're not in any real time limit unless you are. I'll send it back to you, Steve.
All right, Bob. And yeah, one of my favorite stories, and we'll be venturing out on the trail now, is called Sisters on the Trail. And back in the day, and I guess I'm talking about, for this story, maybe the early 2000s, something like that. And I used to always do, and let me just preface the story by saying I've been a forest volunteer for a long time, so I was somewhat in my official capacity when I'm hiking in and out of my cabin. So I'd be hiking in on the lower Winter Creek Trail, which you can look up, and there is along the trail, just not far downstream from my cabin, the junction of the Mount Zion Trail. And I came to the trail junction this one day, hiking on a Saturday morning up to my cabin, and I heard ladies' voices, and they were coming down the Mount Zion Trail towards the junction. So whenever I heard people coming, and especially the ladies, I would stop and wait, and I would try to engage people and be somewhat of a docent in the canyon. So I was standing there waiting, and the voices became louder and louder, and then coming around the corner, around the bushes, come 3 nuns in their full habits with hiking boots. And they were hiking down, and I'm looking at them thinking, of all my time out here, I've never seen this before. And they walked right up to me, and they were so friendly. And there was one elder, and the other two were somewhat younger. And so I engaged Sister, and I said, excuse me, but in all my time of hiking out here, this is a first for me to meet sisters on the trail. And they laughed, and they said, well, we like to hike, and we come out here and enjoy God's country and all this. And I was astonished. And I told them, now they had brown habits instead of the normal, like I would see, black and white. And they explained that they were from a convent down in Sierra Madre, which I had heard of before, and they just loved to hike. And so they were out on their Saturday morning. And we talked a little bit, and then the elder sister said to her partners there, you know, if we're really nice and ask Steve politely, maybe he'll let us come up and see his cabin. Because I had explained to them all about the cabin and my volunteer work and all that. And I just looked at him and I said, well, okay. And we took off and we hiked up the trail all the way to my cabin. And that was only about 20 minutes or so. And so I was kind of explaining everything to them, and they loved it and everything. They had such a nice time hanging out. They had a little bit of lunch, and then it was time to go. And they said a prayer to bless my cabin, and then I said goodbye, and they took off and hiked away. But that was a singular experience there as well. It's never happened since, and that was a special time with the sisters at the cabin. That was a lot of fun. Back to you, Bob.
Yeah, no, that's my favorite. I can just picture that really happening. And yeah, I guess they're pretty cool underneath all that habit. It's a good habit to have, I guess. Well, hiking is a habit. They make good burgers at the Habit too. Anyway, okay, enough of that. But no, that's just that's one of those priceless stories that another one you can't just make up. I mean, yeah, I'm pretty creative at times, but I don't think I can make that one up. But let's just see if there's a couple. We don't want to take a big list, but a couple that like to check back in or wants has a question for Steve or just a quick comment, and then we'll probably wrap that up at the bottom of the hour there. Let's stand by for any other stations. Please come now.
Kilo 6, India Tango, Eric, Simi Valley.
Well, that made it pretty easy. We got Eric on the line. Hey, throw the line out, and we got a Kilo 6 India Tango. Eric, what's on your mind tonight, Eric? And you can, if you have a question, you can go direct with Steve, and he'll bring it back to me when he's through. And welcome to the Great Outdoor Net.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm coming in over a radioless all-star node, so I am also duplex. If I could find a good duplex HT, I'd probably be running duplex all the time. Anyway, no, I just habitually check into nets nowadays. I guess that's part of retirement. What can I say? Anyway, nothing really important to comment on. Just wanted to give you another check-in for the net. So thank you much for holding the net, and I'll listen out to the end there. K6IT.
Well, thank you, Eric. I'm just over here in Camarillo, so we're just kind of a stone's throw away from Simi in Ventura County, as we all are here. Sounds good. Yeah, well, we're here every week, and sometimes we have people that just come by, say hello too, which is great, and or let us know if you did something, or just enjoy the net or whatever. It's always good. Well, let me send it back to Steve for kind of a final. Any wrap up you want to say, and then we'll probably take it down for the night. And really enjoyed and appreciate having Steve come out and sharing his stories and things with us. And it's just it's a kind of a, I can't think of any other thing that would be that outdoor except a cabin in the woods that you got to hike to. I mean, there's a lot of good stories of all different things outdoors, but this pretty much takes the cake. All right, Steve, over to you, and then we'll wrap her up. Go ahead, Steve. KI6LOV from W6ZJX.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. And well, first of all, I'd like to thank everyone for their interest in my adventures at my cabin over the years. It's humbling to know that you like to hear my stories, and I always look forward to this outdoor net for a lot of reasons. All right, I was going to mention that one of my milestones in being out at the cabin was becoming a ham operator, and that was about 18 years ago. So prior to that, for a couple of years before that, I had a Canyon security radio with our own private repeater, but it was nothing like being able to be on the Papa system from my cabin. Not only added security, but a lot of fun talking with all my radio friends when I'm out there, and doing it live from the cabin. Always a great time to talk with all of you. And I guess that's about it, Bob. I'll leave you with one quick story here, and then talk about how I get water and what I do with it. Well, there was one time a number of years ago, and I've talked about my bear encounters a number of times. I was just looking out the window of my cabin on a warm summer afternoon, and a big old bear's walking up the stream, next to the stream, and I always like to keep an eye out for him. And then a while later, 20, 30 minutes later, he's walking back down, and I looked, and I'm going, wow, that bear is soaking wet. And I'd never seen that before, but of course, it's a hot day. The bear was up there rolling around in the stream water, and that's why we put it through the filter before we drink it. So there's the soaking wet bear, Bob. And with that, I'll say thanks to everybody, and hope to hear you on the New Hams Net on Wednesdays. Always a pleasure. And Bob, thanks for doing the net tonight. I had a lot of fun, and I hope everyone else did as well. This is KI6LOV. Take care.
Well, Steve, I really thought it was the bloated rat up in the Zen pool, but I guess, yeah, you figure a dusty old bear. You know, like you said, we stopped so many times and you got water. We'd either have the old tin cup, you know, that, there's a special name for that. I think Logan will be texting me any second now. There's the little tin cup that was famous. Every hiker had one of those. And we just drink out of the streams, you know, or the little spring that was on the side of the trail and, you know, or filled our bottles up. We didn't take time to do any of that stuff. But yeah, guess it can happen to the best of us. All right, want to thank Steve very much. I think everyone would like to thank Steve for coming by and sharing with us again. This is our annual Memorial Day weekend, Steve's Cabinet. So we can look forward to that another time too. And you know, there's so many little stories. If Steve ever wants to just tell one of those one night too, while we're, Sierra Cup. Thank you, Steve. Exactly right. Still sell those at REI too, and now Amazon. But want to come and just give us one of your little quick stories during the trail report type of thing. That's always welcome too. And I want to thank the Papa System for allowing us to have this net and all the other great nets that we have out there. And all the net controllers, Cecil, and the tech team that's out there working to keep everything working. And people behind the scenes pushing buttons. We love buttons. So with that, we'll close the net at 21:31. Look at that. We did pretty good tonight. Did an hour and a half. And don't forget,
the Papa System has a great outdoor net archive that can be found on the Papa System website by accessing the homepage and drop down the YouTube tab with over 85 episodes that you can listen to anytime. These are a non-for-profit podcast for the pure love and joy of the great outdoors and amateur radio.
I mean, there's something like 97 now, actually. We're going to have to throw a party at 100. We're getting close. This will be 98. All right, everyone take care. Enjoy your time off if you have it off. Make sure we stop and just take a few minutes and think about, you know, what Memorial Day is all about. I learned not to say Happy Memorial Day because it's really a day of reflection and getting family together too, and be thankful that we have family and everyone together. So everyone take care, be safe, and we will see you next week in the great outdoors.